Hello, hello. Dr. Joe from Atlanta. Welcome to your Wellness for Life. Happy Monday. For some people, it's Mindset Monday, Meatless Monday, Money Monday. For me, today it was Madness Monday. Anybody that experienced the chaos today knows what I'm talking about because that's exactly the word I use. This is madness. So, how was your Monday? My Christmas was great. It was quiet. And I know in my business, when it's too quiet, the proverbial, you know what, hits the fan at some point. And many professions are like that. Again, Dr. Joe from Atlanta, welcome to your Wellness for Life. This is where we discuss all 9 aspects, 9 pillars of wellness. Wellness is a state of being, and health, good health, is actually just one component of that. It's a state of body. And all those 9 components are important to give you a good state of wellness, a good state of being. So today I'd like to talk about stress and different professions. And so I got the idea today, kind of midday, what I was going to talk about tonight. So, and then I went to, Dr. Google and I looked up a bunch of stuff and educated myself. Some of it's life experience that I'll share with you, and some of it's just new stuff for me as well. So, mid morning, my staff kind of gave me a little heads up on what was maybe coming down the pike. And I do need to keep this kind of G rated, so I'll keep the specifics out. But long story short, a patient had a problem, came to labor and delivery via ambulance, and then I get that phone call from the charge nurse saying, I need you now. I need you yesterday. So now there's the bolt down the hallway. I don't have to go down the street. No street, just down the hallway. Some people know which hallway I need to go down. So I can be there in about 2 minutes. And when you get to the room where the patient was and it's empty, you know it's all hands on deck. So now I run into the operating room and there's 15 people there, and it is, full court press, all hands on deck. Everybody knows what you need to do, and we got it done. And mom and baby are doing fine. So, a little stressful, middle of the day. Patients had to reschedule, and you just have to roll with the punches. So, what other jobs are kind of like that? So I've got a list of 10 jobs that are the most stressful jobs, and this was actually done by some survey, and then 10 jobs that are the least stressful jobs. We'll talk about what makes a job stressful, symptoms of unhealthy stress, and then maybe some strategies on how to manage the stress. And ultimately, maybe if you are in a profession and you're starting to have had enough, and you're burnt out, maybe it's time to look for something else, something less stressful. All right, so today's topic, did you know what you were getting yourself into? So I still remember the moment where I kind of wanted to quit. I was a third-year medical student, and that's when you do your clinical rotations. I just had my appendix out. I just finished 1 month of internal medicine. Now I was on the cancer ward, and I was up all night, and just one patient after another. And I put my head down somewhere, and it was probably 3 o'clock in the morning, and I said, did you know what you were getting yourself into? Do you want to continue this? And then the face of my mother flashed up, and I said, man, I don't want to face mom and tell her I dropped out of medical school. So I kept going, and the rest is history. So did I know what I was really getting myself into? Even though I had kind of volunteered in the hospital, the specifics of it, you really don't know. And so let's talk about that and the 10 most stressful jobs. Number one, and it consistently comes up probably year after year, is enlisted military personnel, especially if they are in a combat unit. So Navy SEALs, Special Forces, things like that. Uh, Even though most of the time, most units, probably 97, 98% of the time, are not in combat and not at war, nothing really prepares you for war. And even though I'm a veteran, I've spent 12 and a half years in the military, even though I was not in a combat unit, I did get training as a combat medic, even though I was a physician, and had to design the healthcare support for combat. And warfare nowadays does not have a front. And we have forward surgical units, which is basically just two surgeons, an anesthesiologist, and a nurse, and they just plop you wherever to take care of wounded soldiers. So you imagine that can be a little stressful. So, but military personnel, I applaud all those young guys that want to serve in the Marine Corps and military, and that's wonderful. But they probably really don't know what they're getting themselves into. And then when they do see some combat, we do see some soldiers come back with post-traumatic stress disorder. So when you see your buddy get injured or maybe not make it back, it really makes an impression on you. So that's lots of stress, lots of stress. Number two, firefighters. It's probably feast or famine. They sit in the firehouse, and then there's a call, and especially if you're a firefighter that has to go to a high rise, can be very dangerous, potentially life-threatening, and they roll up their sleeves and they get to work. It's a very dangerous job, very physically demanding job, and obviously very stressful, and they probably after a while get burnt out. Number three, airline pilot. Everybody loves to fly in sunny weather, and I'm sure my pilot friends love flying in sunny weather, but you can't always pick your weather, can you? And I've been in several aborted landings and never an aborted takeoff, but I've been on several aborted landings, and I can imagine it's a little stressful up in the cockpit when you're responsible for several hundred people in the back. And the problem, there is if you mess up, not only do you maybe lose everyone in the back of the plane, it may cost you your life as well. So obviously, a very stressful job. Number four, police officers, obviously, put their life on the line. Very stressful job. The next several ones really aren't that dangerous, and it's funny when people were polled what is the number one thing in your job that makes it so stressful, the word deadline came up probably number one. So broadcasters, they have deadlines. Event coordinators, they have deadlines. Newspaper reporters, they have deadlines. Public relations executives, they have deadlines. Corporate executives have deadlines. I was a little surprised that number 10 was taxi driver. Now, it may be a little stressful to drive a taxi in New York City, but I can't imagine that that's really that stressful. I would have probably put in there ER personnel that work in the trauma room, the trauma nurses, the trauma physicians, everyone that supports taking care of a trauma patient, very stressful. So I think I'd swap that one out for taxi drivers. And the 10 jobs that are least stressful, not to make light of them, but if you're looking for a less stressful job, you may want to pick one of these. Number one is diagnostic medical sonographer. Kind of relaxing job. You're doing ultrasounds. Unless you're doing an ultrasound in an emergent setting, that can be stressful. But just routine sonography, probably pretty laid back. Number two, compliance officer. Number three, hairstylist. Although I think if you're doing some famous person's hair and they don't like what you're doing, you messed that up, man, that could be pretty stressful. Number four, audiologist. Number five, university professor. Number six, medical records technician. I think now that everything's gotten more electronic, medical records technician is probably going to be replaced with more IT stuff. Number seven, jeweler. Number 8, operations research analyst. I'm not even quite sure what that is. Number 9, pharmacy technician. And number 10, massage therapist. So that's a list of 10 least stressful jobs. Um, what makes a job stressful? As I already mentioned, deadlines kind of comes up at the top of the list. The other things that people mention that makes their job stressful is the amount of travel that they have to do, maybe lack of growth potential, mentioned deadlines, working in the public eye, and maybe even have to speak in public. That's the number one fear of people, speaking in front of groups. Number 5, competitiveness, physical demands, environmental conditions. You know, those people that work at the Weather Channel and they have to cover hurricanes and they're out there in the middle of the monsoon. Probably a little stressful, worried about if you're going to get washed away with the next wave. Other hazards encountered, and think about firemen and police officers, and even ER personnel. You get splashed by any kind of body fluid that may have some infectious potential in it. You can see the danger in that job. Number 9, risk to one's own life. You know, think about military people that are in combat. They certainly put their life on the line. And then number 10, risk of the life of another person. You know, that's stressful when you're responsible for the life of another person. And that's where surgery kind of comes in. Some unhealthy symptoms, so unhealthy stress symptoms that you may want to key in on that might tell you that you've had enough, or maybe you need to de-stress a little bit, and we'll come to that. But several symptoms here that show that anxiety may be dominating your daily thoughts, and that's your blood pressure goes up, you have a weakened immune function, you just keep getting cold after cold, heartburn, insomnia or tiredness, weight gain, if you're a female, missed periods or irregular periods, erectile dysfunction, whoa, that's a big one, head and stomach aches, trouble concentrating, and irritability. All right, so those are unhealthy, stressful symptoms. If you have any of those, you probably need to start making some changes. And then finally, let's talk about how to manage the stress. So 3 big things. Now, some of these may not be helpful when you are, a military person in combat. But number 1, manage your time efficiently. Prioritize the most critical elements of the project and divide them into elements that are attainable. And that's probably more for those people that are working with deadlines. Number 2, set boundaries. It's so easy to take your work home, and I'm actually going to have to go back to work. And that's just the nature of the beast. But, you probably need to set some boundaries, start turning off your IT devices, and maybe be more present for your family. That might be helpful. And the final thing is find some positive responses, of some positive outlets. Don't gravitate to unhealthy coping strategies like eating too much junk food and maybe alcohol. And sometimes you just need to vent. I know over the years my wife has listened to me vent many times, and I think she probably knows by now that that was my way of de-stressing. All right, so we talked about 10 very stressful jobs, 10 less stressful jobs. I know that there's other jobs that would fit in there, and you could probably discuss this for hours and hours and hours. If you start developing some very unhealthy symptoms, some stressful symptoms, you may want to seek out professional help, or maybe you want to start looking into a career or profession that's more relaxed. And if any of this resonates with you, please send me a comment or a message, and we can discuss that further. So on that note, I wish you a wonderful Monday. Get some rest. Tomorrow's Tuesday, and this is New Year's week. So people are starting to gear up for planning for that 2021, and I hope it's going to be a good one for all of us. So I wish you a blessed evening, and we'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye.